today's world of homogeneous commuter SUVs, oversized pickups, and overly computerized electric cars, there's fewer and fewer cars coming out that are truly exciting for gearheads. Chevy killed off the Camaro, Nissan killed off the GTR, and Audi killed off the R8. Even Dodge stopped making gas-powered Chargers and Challengers. But SRT wasn't going to let the Challenger go quietly. This legendary model needed the send-off it truly deserved. So they took the already ludicrous Dodge Challenger Demon, an 840 horsepower monster, and added even more power to give us this. The 2023 Dodge Demon 170. This is the last gas-powered Dodge muscle car. Only 3,000 of these were made for the United States and another 300 for Canada. The 170 refers to the proof of E85 fuel. That's 85% alcohol, so multiply 85 times 2, and that's where you get the 170. We're gonna give you a tour today of the Dodge Demon 170 and share some of the special differences between this and the standard Hellcat, all while celebrating Dodge's commitment to powerful muscle cars. We're actually gonna start right here in the back. So effectively, this is the same wide body kit as some of the Hellcat wide bodies, but the difference really starts right here. This is no ordinary tire. This is a rim that is wrapped in a Mickey Thompson drag radial. The goal there is to keep as much of that power planted to the ground as possible. At first glance, you might think that this is a Hellcat badge, but no, this is a Demon. And since this is the last call edition, they actually complemented this with a little jewel in the eye, which I think is kind of a nice touch. And you're gonna be seeing a lot of Dodge Demon badging as we get through this badass vehicle. The performance modifications on this vehicle start well before you get under the hood. This car needs as much cool air as possible to run at peak performance. So you have obviously the cowl induction here, and then I thought a nice feature is these fog lights that are acting more as a ram air. And believe it or not, there's even a little Dodge Demon badging feature in there as well. Now for under the hood, because this is really what you're paying for. There were a number of different Challengers, so there were a lot of different engine variants, but the Dodge Demon comes with the 6.2 liter, 376 cubic inch supercharged Hemi V8, which is right here, of course. But what's also right here is the original color, and this is that neon green matchbox that was a little bit too much for me. So what I did is I took this fine machine over to the boys at Speed FX to put on this awesome USC wrap. So we mentioned earlier the 170 and the name Demon 170 comes from the E85 fuel. And in fact, if you're running E85, this thing will put out 1,025 horsepower. But if you're in an area of the United States that E85 is hard to come by, this will absolutely run on pump gas. Dodge suggests 91 octane, and that will put out about 900 horsepower, so no slouch. From a torque perspective, this will put out about 945 pound-feet of torque at 4,200 RPMs, but again, that's running on E85. As far as looks go, this is gonna have a similar appearance to your standard Hellcat Hemi, but this forged Demon on top is going to give you the first indication of the monster that lives within. And even though this is the same block as the Hemi, there are three main features that give this vehicle 300 additional horsepower. So the first main difference with this engine versus your standard Hellcat is the forged internals. So with a forged internals, rather than making a mold and pouring melted metal into those molds to make the crankshaft and connecting rods, the internals of this engine are actually forged from a single piece of metal. That allows them to withstand higher pressure and higher heat derived from burning E85 and having the bigger boost from the larger supercharger, all while making the vehicle lighter. When E85 vaporizes in an engine that can actually handle it, it actually soaks up heat. And cold gases take up less space. So that allows this vehicle to have more fuel-air mixture in that same cylinder, giving you more bang every time it fires. The Hellcat originally came with a 2.4 liter supercharger that made 11.6 pounds of boost. The Demon actually has a 3 liter supercharger that makes over 21 pounds of boost. So some of you might have seen this already on the internet, but a bone stock Demon 170 can actually pull a wheelie at the drag strip. Now, That's at sea level and with optimal conditions. Up here in Colorado, we're running at elevation, so we'll lose 10 to 15% of our horsepower in this environment. So when we take this thing down to the Pueblo drag strip, probably running in the 850 to 900 horsepower range. The other cool features of this car, or at least the statistics on this car, are that out of the gate, again at sea level, 0 to 60 in 1.66 seconds, with a quarter mile time of 8.91 seconds. And that's just factory stock. Dodge has fully prepared this vehicle to take on more horsepower. And in fact, there's some easy bolt-on additions that can be done right here at a Dodge dealership in Castle Rock. That SRT division has bolt-on additions that'll put 1250 to 1300 horsepower on this vehicle. So like, subscribe, follow us, because we're gonna be getting all those modifications done and you're gonna wanna see this thing perform afterwards. So I've taken my time breaking this thing in. This vehicle right now has 850 to 900 miles on it, so we've really taken our time. You can see it still has the stock green pulley, and this is exactly the area where we're going to upgrade to get this thing to 1200 horsepower with the upgraded pulley system. So moving on to the inside of the Dodge Demon 170, obviously a 2023 model year, you're gonna have your keyless entry, your remote start, etc. So this vehicle does have all those features. But interestingly, it's got two different key fobs. And the one that I'm holding right here is specific to the E85 fuel. So when you use the key fob with the red and yellow writing, you're indicating to the car that you may be running E85 as your fuel, and that's going to wake up all the settings to run that high performance fuel. So we're actually running E85 right now, so we're gonna use the red key to start her up. So when you're using E85 and accordingly the red key, you're gonna notice on the dash, there's actually a corn cob that indicates that you're running E85. And then moving on from kind of the gauge cluster over to the infotainment system, obviously you're gonna have your Bluetooth, your stereo, your backup cameras, etc. But really the coolest features are below the screen here. So when you get into the SRT button, now that's gonna launch all the different settings and controls, from drag settings to custom settings, all sorts of features that are built into this vehicle for the drag strip and otherwise. Then you've got your launch control, your trans brake, awesome features for the drag strip. And then what I love is this thing has a built-in dyno. So you can actually run a 30-second dyno, you can adjust your settings accordingly and have the readout right here on the screen. And the funny thing about the Demon is since it was built as a drag strip vehicle, out of the gates, it comes with none of this. It doesn't come with the radio or infotainment system. It doesn't come with the front or rear seat because on the drag strip, you're trying to run as little weight as possible. But from a practical standpoint, I live in Colorado. I have a wife and 3 kids, so I opted for some of the conveniences here. But if we were to set a record drag time, we'd need to remove a lot of this weight, and it really couldn't happen anyways in Colorado since we're running on altitude. The Demon 170, they made only 3,000 of these vehicles for the United States market and another 300 for Canada. I think one of the coolest features is this badging they put right below the air conditioning vent that's got the Demon 170 logo just like the key, but also has your actual number. So I'm vehicle number 2442. So if it's not obvious by now, I'm a shameless USC Trojan alumni as evidenced by the exterior wrap. But what I love about what they do over at Speed FX, which is where I had this wrap job done, they take it to the absolute next level with the door jambs. So this custom design really pulls it all from the exterior into the interior, all with that USC Trojan theme that I love. Inside the 2023 Dodge Demon 170. I've had this car for, gosh, almost a year at this point, but I have taken some time breaking it in. I think the main things that I like about it are, I kind of think the main things that most people like about it, it's a lot of out-of-the-box factory horsepower, but this thing is definitely meant to be a drag strip car, so not a GT car. I'm not taking any turns aggressively fast in this type of thing. But man, it'll get up and go from an acceleration standpoint. And so it's a bullet in a straight line. So that's, for me, that's the muscle car that I grew up with, the sensation that I wanted. And it gives me 110% of that altogether. They, interior-wise, you know, they tried to do some, I guess, kind of higher-end features or touches, given it's the last call version and a high-end version of their Challenger series. So they came in with some carbon fiber inserts. Those are nice touches, but had zero influence on me purchasing the vehicle. The supercharger on this thing is insane. You can hear the whine without even getting into the gas. So it's just an absolute blast to drive. So realistically, this is just a modern day muscle car on crack. But I would say that the shortcomings are, obviously it's not meant to do anything but go straight effectively. However, the traction is a real challenge. You'll get some chatter or wheel hop. And so I've addressed that in one of my other vehicles to try to keep that power to the ground. But when you're dealing with, you know, over 1,000 horsepower straight from the factory, it's nearly unusable to that level on the street. But, you know, if you have a drag strip environment that's been mopped, now you've got a whole different traction setup, and this thing's just an absolute beast with no modifications. Man, this is just a go fast machine. It sounds great. It's exactly as advertised, but for, you know, some traction issues and so forth. So I'm going to try to find a place a little bit less in the countryside here where we can get after it a little bit so you can hear it whine and see what it can do. That'll do it. Other than that, it's pretty conventional. Reasonable gauge clusters, reasonable aux system, but that, you know, is just sort of expected in a 2023 model year. I wouldn't say that any of it is something to write home about, but, you know, it's makes it more comfortable than like my 68 Camaro, which is just all muscle and no comfort. So that's kind of cool as well. And the other thing that I liked about this is that I'm not really investing when I'm buying cars. I drive them, obviously. I think probably half the Demons that were sold have 0 to 20 miles on them. And there's people that are collectors, obviously, and are looking at that more from an investment perspective. That's not at all what I want to do. I'm buying these things to drive them, but the scarcity of it was pretty cool. And with everything going electric, the last call feature of it was kind of nostalgic in and of itself. I grew up with muscle cars. I grew up wanting to go fast straight. But now you've got, you know, the entire Charger Challenger lineup is now electric. The Camaro is gone altogether. You've got still the Mustang and the Vet, but these things are going the way of the dodo, which I think is sad, especially because my day job is oil and gas. So for me, I'm absolutely more of a combustible engine type guy. So I guess there might be some nostalgia and value to having kind of the last edition of these things too, as everything goes electric. So I don't know, all those things kind of came together to make this something that made sense for me to buy and ultimately drive. In summary, the Demon is an ode to Dodge climbing to the summit of performance over the life of the Challenger, as if to say this is the pinnacle for the American internal combustion engine. When I was diving back into muscle cars about 6 years ago, that mantra really spoke to me. I really connected with the idea of bringing hypercar level performance to a production car silhouette, because that's what good muscle cars have always been about. It's sort of sad that this is the end of the era for Dodge and a lot of other muscle cars, but I can't think of a better way to go out on a high note. So that about wraps it up for today's inside and out review of the Dodge Demon 170. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those for us and we'll try to answer them as best as possible. And if you enjoyed this, please like or subscribe, because we're just getting started with this channel and we're gonna be modifying, tweaking, racing, and shooting a lot of cool content. We'd love to have you along for that journey.